Uh, Hi, Paul. Recently, we've been hearing about some teams trying things that are, I guess, a little bit unusual, mixing things up in practice. Like, for example, the Penguins doing a whole drill with wooden sticks, or last year the Flames playing some kind of a hybrid between soccer and handball. Unusual things like that. Well, what has your relationship been with this sort of experiments, and if you can maybe recall some of those?
It's sometimes a function of your practice time and how your schedule lays out. Like if you get a bunch of days in a row together and a vibe for your team. So yeah, we've had a run of playing baseball on the ice. It's a different game, and it had to do with batting a puck out of the air and trying to make it around the bases. And guys were started throwing pucks at each other, so that was fun, but it wasn't very safe. I don't know that we have the practice time we have now, certainly in the structure that we're running. I don't think that we would do that, but we play far more small area games where we keep score than maybe we did in the past. 2-on-2, 3-on-3, losing teams does laps. And I find they like those more than, I wouldn't call them necessarily gimmick games, but the baseball game that we put in there a couple of times, I think it was probably in Carolina, it was just for fun. These guys want to compete. They don't mind playing games, but they like a puck and sticks. I tried to get the American League team, the Marlies, to use wooden sticks, but that did not go over very well with the manufacturers. They didn't like that idea at all. So I don't know. It's good to have fun, like the. I think the idea sometimes is it's maybe just as important for the players to see the coaches having a little bit of fun, because we walk around with serious faces all the time, growling. And sometimes if you can have a little fun on the ice with your team, it's good to kind of relieve the tension.
We'll go next to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Afternoon, Paul. What can you tell us about the early exit for Pierre-Luc Dubois and his potential availability for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, he was, he left the rink fine last night. Something kind of tightened up on him, and we couldn't get to loosen up today, so we just got him off the ice. We'll get him checked out, but I'm going to list him as probable because that's how he came to the rink this morning. Like we expected him to be a player, but he's going to get checked out today.
And we'll go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul, you got your first look, I guess, in person with Tim Stützle yesterday. I don't know how much you've watched of him on film or if you caught him on the World Juniors or whatnot, but just wanted to get your impression on him. And seems like a kind of guy who's obviously a high draft pick and is flourishing so far early in his NHL career.
He's going to be dynamic. I've watched him play a bit in the pre-scouts for Ottawa. And he's not going to be a guy that plays the perimeter game. Like he can hang onto the puck in heavy areas and he can do things with them. And it was the other night he was playing in a game and he made a great move in the corner and didn't pull it off. And then he went and made another great move and couldn't quite pull it off. And it was against Edmonton, and the D finished him off in the corner. And that move is coming, right? Like he's going to be able to, as he gets physically stronger, he's going to be able to pull that stuff off. So this is going to be a really dynamic player that some young guys come in the league and really what you're waiting for is for them to get to the inside of the game, right? They spend all their time on the outside. They kind of wait for the play to come to them. They've had so much success in amateur hockey where you can kind of get away with that. But this guy doesn't I don't think there's going to be a lag there on him. He looks like he's right into the dark areas and controlling the puck where he's really, really dynamic skater in his agility. He's going to be fun to watch for Ottawa. I mean, this guy's going to produce big numbers early.
And we'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Paul. I think the last update that you gave us was that Harkins was behind Thompson as far as getting back in there. I see him out here with the yellow jersey, Nate Thompson. Harkins doesn't have one. Can you just give us an update on where those guys are at in their return?
Yeah. I mean, they're still day-to-day. Harks might be ahead of Tomer right now. But before they get into getting back in, they got to get into full practice and get some conditioning back in on them because they haven't been able to do a whole heck of a lot.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Paul, I imagine the coaching fraternity is pretty tight in these days of COVID and the protocols and some games getting canceled and some coaches getting sick. How much do you guys keep in touch compared to a normal season?
Probably a little bit more, Paul. I will be honest that Pete Dubois took some serious abuse yesterday for those golden helmets they had on last night. And I took some back for the hairdo I was rocking a couple of days ago. So we are, I'm more in contact with them. It's because of the new, even the new protocols that kind of come out, and they come out fairly regularly now. How are your teams handling it? What is it that you're, how are you able to accomplish things? Yeah, I find there's more contact this year. Sent Ralph a bunch of texts right after he got sick and talked to Dallas quite a bit, just making contact with the different coaches. Sure.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CGOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul. Just wondering, after you had a chance to watch the video, would you still use the colorful description for last night's first period as you did last night?
Yeah, I think it was fairly accurate, Kelly. So we have a standard play. The interesting thing about it is, though, I don't relate that necessarily to Ottawa and where they are in the standings. So I've got watched them play a fair amount, and they play a hard game. And we just did a bunch of things early that put them at their best and us on our heels. And then with 2 minutes left to go in the first period, Dubois' line had a real good shift, and then Lowry's line followed up. So I thought maybe I'll give my team a little bit of room here. I didn't like our game for about 18 minutes of the first period. The last two were good. And from that point on, we were a pretty good team.
We'll go next to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Well, I know this is how you started training camp, but can you just give us an indication of how you landed on these pairings and what you like about them on the back end?
Are we talking about the blue line?
The blue line, yes.
Forberg and Pionk, really good complementary pair in that one's a puck mover and gets into holes, and the other's a play killer, right? Anything coming down that left side. Derek's been really, really strong. Been a really good shot blocker on the penalty kill. And we've run him against the other team's best most nights. After that, I'm not sure I got a pair, Ken, because, Tucker Pullman's been out the entire time. He's a guy that we would have in our lineup. And then we used Mo and Beaulieu and Mo together, move Mo over to the right. And we like that. We like the option of having Morrissey move to the right. And Logan kind of came in and just stayed in, right? He was maybe a bit unexpected because he was coming into his first NHL game. We just like it. We understood it. DeMello missed a big chunk of time at the start and came in. So I would say there's some room for experimentation with our pairings because we've had some guys in and out on that back end. But the pair that's been pretty consistent is Forbert and Pionk.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Gregor. Thanks, Paul. Just a quick lineup or two question about tomorrow. Is Connor going to start, or are you going to look to get LB in a game here in the near future? And are you looking at 11-7 again, or possibly back to 12-6?
Some of that will be a function on Pierre-Luc, how he comes in tomorrow. As far as the goalies, this is the last kind of unusual stretch, right? Where we play every second night, but we got a 3-day block at the end. Some of this, Connor now looks like he's in a rhythm, right? Like his last couple of games, he's just been big and square in the net. And so I do want to get LB back in because he's going to be playing a bunch of games for us in March, but I'm not, the schedule doesn't dictate that we have to force him in a game.
We'll go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul, I imagine this was the plan from the beginning, just to have Samberg and Ville play out with the Moose now that they're headed down there. What is, I mean, obviously it's to get them more time, but what's I don't know if it's the message to them or what's this next step for them look like?
Oh, a bunch of pro minutes, right? Like just the experience of playing bigger minutes. These guys are both coming out of amateur hockey, and that's the next phase. So bigger men going to the net, faster reads, having to make the decision to jump into plays. Both of them have an offensive piece to their game. So the confidence to show that, to get involved in the play. In a normal NHL season, these guys would be down there running big minutes. I like both their camps a lot. Like I hadn't really, haven't really seen Dylan Samberg other than a development look, and it's not the same thing. So I like the way he handled his camp, and Ville looks stronger and faster, right? So that's what you're hoping for with him. Good puck mover. We liked his game, but he's got both those guys got to get into big minutes and they got a heavy schedule with the Moose, which is really, really good for them. So we're excited about where they're at, and think that now, in some ways, this crazy situation we're in will be good because they'll really get pushed into a lot of games, and it'll be taxing for them.
And final question to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul, just to kind of piggyback off of Ken's questions about the D pairings and that, offensively, your blue line brigade is, kind of in the bottom half, if you will, of the division, but stats don't tell the whole story. Are you happy with how involved they've been offensively, and do you see them catching up to the Edmontons, the Toronto, Montreals, or are you guys just not structured that way?
So I would say it as a general answer. I don't know what the number is, but I'm going to say we're sitting probably about 6th in goals for per game in the NHL right now. I like our offensive game way more right now than I did maybe even over the last 2 years. It's a different style of offensive game. Our defense isn't going to be quite as involved, maybe quite as dynamic. In the Neil Pionk goal last night, we may not see a whole lot of it, but they are getting their pucks. We're generating more from kind of basic offensive hockey pucks to the net than we have in the past. I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that we should be expecting a whole lot more offense from them. Neil had a big year for us last year. I think he had more points than anybody in the Jets 2.0 as a defenseman. That included Dustin Byfuglien, I think. So that was a really big year for him. A lot of it came on the power play. We've flipped our power play units a little bit. So I'm not sure if we're going to see those kind of numbers from those guys. I don't think we need to win. If we're sitting 6th in offense, our offensive game is not the place that we need to keep our focus on. That we're about 15th in goals against per game. That's the piece that we will be challenged to work with and get better at as we go forward. So I'm good where our offensive game is right now.